Okay. All right. Happy Friday, everyone. If you are with us today, it's because you are checking out our Nobody Told Us series, or Nobody Told Me That series, actually. I am going to be speaking with Christopher Johnson with the Chenoa Fund today, and we'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Awesome. Hi, my name's Christopher Johnson. I do work for the actual name of our company is CBC Mortgage Agency, where everybody knows us as the Chenoa Fund, which is a Native American Indian tribe owned company. The Cedar Band of Paiutes out of Cedar City, Utah, about about 150 miles north of Las Vegas into the bottom of Utah. That's where they are at, and they own us, and it allows us as a government. They're Indian tribes are government agencies, and so with that, it allows us to do business all across the country. So we do business in every state except New York, and so obviously Florida, Orlando, or in the United States. So we do business there. So and I'm here with Don to talk about that, talk about what we do. So yeah, I've been with the company for 8 years, and it's just we've helped over 60,000 families get into homes nationwide over that in that time. So it's been a fun ride. It's a fun time working with them and helping families achieve the American dream. So that's what we're all about, and building that generational wealth that home ownership helps with. So that's what we love.
Love that. So, for those that don't know, it's their first time watching. I'm Dawn Reeves McKinney. I am a licensed real estate agent in the Orlando area. But this conversation is really to help first time home buyers, people who have been sitting on the sidelines and possibly even maybe are just extremely nervous about the idea of home ownership. And we are here to have those conversations to get them back out here. So, if you're interested in learning more, I would love to connect. My information's in my bio, and the Chenoa Fund information will also be underneath this video in the comment section. So, Christopher, we're going to jump right in. I know you talked a little bit about the Chenoa Fund, but can you explain to us how does this directly impact someone who's a first-time home buyer?
Absolutely. So, I was thinking I didn't really say anything about it, but we're owned by an Indian tribe, but we are a national down payment assistance provider. What that means is we work with FHA borrowers, so anybody who can qualify for an FHA loan, they can get with FHA. FHA has a minimum investment requirement for every borrower buying a home. They have to put a minimum investment in, and that investment is 3.5% of the purchase price. So you can get a loan for 96.5% of that value. So say you're buying, just for easy math, we're going to use 100,000 just because it's very simple. I know nobody's going to buy 100,000. Well, there's very, very few $100,000 homes out there anymore,
Maybe
unfortunately.
years ago, right?
Yeah, years ago, but not today. But $100,000, $100,000 you would need to put, you get 96, so you get 96 uh, 900 nine sorry $96,500 that would go towards that through that FHA loan. So you're going to make payments on that for the 30 years, and then you would have to bring in 3.5, which would have been 3,500. So we actually bring that in for you. So we give you basically a loan that can either be forgiven or repaid. So there's kind of a couple options on how we do that. We'll talk more about that, but you get that money. So you actually are getting 100% financing. And then FHA does allow for seller or builder or whatever, or family members to give you money towards, say, like your closing costs or down payment or something like that. Well, we're doing the down payment, but they're going to help you with your closing costs. So you can truly get 100% financing even towards your closing costs, with some help from family or the seller or builder or something like that, and then the money we're giving. So it's truly a program that really helps families overcome the challenges that come along with buying a home that they just struggle to save the money they need to do that. And these programs really help and make it possible that you don't have to wait the next 20 years from now to be able to buy a home, that you can buy one today using these types of programs and these types of money. So that's really I think a good capsule of what we're able to do and how we help borrowers. So like I said, we've helped over 60,000 And there's just a lot of need out there. A lot of people needing to get into or wanting to get into homes and deserve to be in homes. They make the money, but just saving, up $20,000, $30,000 is just going to take them so long to do. And with kids and family and food and gas prices and all the things that are coming at us all the time, we just need these extra sources to help us make these things happen. So that's our
Thank you
goal. That's our
for
goal.
shedding light on that, because people that I've spoken to who are interested in becoming home buyers, some of them did not know that they were expected to come out of pocket. So when they see things like 100% financing, they think that they're getting a loan that's going to cover the whole purchase price, but there's an expectation for them to have a down payment, essentially, right? Like they're supposed to contribute some monies towards that. And once we have that conversation, it's kind of like deer in headlights, frustration, like who saves $20,000 to buy a house? And people do save that, but some people don't have access to save that. So this is a great option for those who really are responsible and want to get into a home, but they don't have that liquid cash available to do things like drop $20,000 to $30,000 as a down
Yeah.
payment.
But it
So
also helps them understand that even though we're going to get them 100% financing as far as the loan amount, but they still have closing costs. And going into the transaction knowing, oh, I do have closing costs, but I can ask the seller to help pay for those or whatever. Just, then what you're, kind of knowing all your expectations going into it really helps. So then you can prepare, working with your realtor or working, with the sellers, how we can, overcome these other challenges or these other monies that need to be paid as far as, getting into the home. So really helping them get in with as little money out of pocket, uh, so that the families who don't have any money saved up can still get into a home.
absolutely. So if you could describe the home buying journey for a first time home buyer in one word, what would that be?
Well, we were talking about this a minute before, and the only word that keeps popping in my head is it's something it's very fast. Once you start the process, the word fast just comes to my mind because it is fast. But that doesn't have to be scary because you've got professionals like Don. You have professionals like your loan officer you're working. Our company, we don't write the loans. We just help with the down payment, and we buy those loans after closing. And so you might be making payments to us or for a short time make payments. So we are a lender, but we don't write loans. So you're going to work with your loan officer and you're going to work with Don as your realtor, and they're going to step you through that process. But it is it's once you get going, it's a very fast, and that's exciting because you can get into a home very quickly. But taking that fast process and slowing it down, like you're saying, is kind of what we really need to do, and breaking down each of the steps so that you understand and you understand them clearly, so that it's not a scary process. Because it doesn't have, just because it's fast doesn't mean it has to be scary. It just needs to be, you just need to understand it. And we do it. We've been doing it for years and we understand the process and we can help you through that. That's what we're here for, is to hold your hand through it and make it simple and make it easy and make it not scary.
Love that. So this is one that's a little bit unique because you all, although you're a lender, you're not writing the loan. So our first time home buyer audience is not going to be contacting you, correct?
Typically not. I mean, they can obviously talk to us for questions or understanding the program or how they're eligible to receive that money. But yeah, we're not writing the loans. We just buy them from the lender. So the lenders to us are what's called a correspondent lender. So they write the loans, they fund the loans, they close the loans, and then they sell them to us. And then we do more on the servicing side and taking care of you through the next 30 years of that process. So um, and we also work with other lenders that we sell those off to and they service. So there's a lot of hands, a lot of, can be a little strange situation of how that all works, but that's kind of
Absolutely.
where our role is.
So that's a great point because I know that I have had conversations with several first time home buyers who were like, I didn't know that there were so many people involved in purchasing a home. Because initially they're like, I just talked to a realtor and I talked to a bank and that's it. And I'm like, well, no, there are more people, and sometimes we have to be careful when we check all these emails, right? Especially with things like scammers and fraudulent activities. I know some people who have expressed that they're nervous about down payment assistance, period, because they get all these emails saying, hey, register for this webinar, register for this, or register for that. So just knowing that they have a direct point of contact if they have any questions about what down payment is, I think is very helpful. But could you tell us some things that people should be watching out for when the word down payment assistance is mentioned? Like, what are some things that they should ask before they commit to a down payment assistance program?
Yeah, I mean, as you're saying there, it can seem scary, and you hear stuff. It's like we've always been told if it's too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. It's probably not real, and that certainly can apply when you're working with down payment assistance. You do need to know that you're getting what somebody else might have to put 3.5% down to pay their own closing costs. Where if you're receiving that, there is a cost for it. So when we say it's free, it is free, but there's costs that maybe in our mind could be hidden costs. And not to make that scary, because that can make it sound scary, but it just means that, like, if I'm buying a home and I'm getting an FHA loan, FHA may be offering rates as low as, and I'm not a loan officer, so I can't quote rates or anything, but say rates, you hear in the news that rates are at 6%, and you go talk to the lender and they say, well, using this program, you're going to be at 6.5 or 7. And you're like, well, why can't I get 6 or whatever? And it's because there is a cost, and that cost can be built in to the rate so that you can get that free money, or get that money, without coming out of your pocket. So, you might be looking at a little bit higher rate. You may be looking at, the terms and stuff doesn't change, the mortgage insurance, stuff like that. But, like our program is restricted only to FHA. So say maybe you qualify for a conforming loan, which means that it's going to be sold to they're all different government entities. So FHA is another government entity, but you have conforming, which is known as Freddie, Fannie type loans that are sold to those entities. You won't be able to, even though you qualify them, this program can only be used on FHA. So there is restrictions. There is a cost. There is, things to understand. And I liked what you were talking about before too, that there is so many people in the, because to help keep you safe, we still have somebody inspect the home. You have somebody has to come out and appraise the home. You have a title company or an attorney that you close with, who acts as kind of a third party to make sure to protect you as well, to kind of make sure you understand the documents you're signing, that you understand the terms. The loan officer may say to you, it's a 30-year loan, blah, 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 all this stuff. And they're there to explain and say that what they told you was true, and that you're not getting into something that is, fraudulent or is bad, or, they're supposed to be there to protect you and also to inform you so that things are clear. So yeah, there is a lot of people, and you got underwriters and processors, and there's just a lot of hands to go into making a loan all come together. So although the face of that you're going to see is a loan officer and a realtor, then also there's going to be a title company involved who's going to get with you to actually close the documents and stuff. So and sign the documents. And then you have buyers and sellers, and there's other realtors involved, because there is sellers, and there is a seller realtor, and so you have so there is a lot of hands, and everybody trying to push it along, and everybody wanting things done their way and stuff like that. So it can get confusing. But again, you want to stick with your person, with Dawn, and with your loan officer, and they're going to guide you, and they're there to protect you too. That's their job.
Love
So
that. And I think it's really important to know, like, the reason why we're even having this conversation is because your realtor should be able to provide resources. So if you feel like the hurdle to buying a home is you haven't saved 3.5%, or you haven't saved any money at all, there are some options out here for you to still qualify to get into that home, and having an educated realtor such as myself to
Yeah.
make those dots connect in order for it to be possible. So I really appreciate moments like this where we can educate the audience, because sometimes you're working with a lender that may just not know that there is something like this available. Sometimes, depending on how long people have been in the industry or how many deals they've actually successfully closed, they may not be familiar or even a fan of down payment assistance. But as a consumer, knowing what your rights are, I think it's very important to weigh out all viable options before making a final decision.
Absolutely. Yeah, and this is just, I mean, I believe it's, if you have a stable, job and stable income, and and you're wanting to move to the step of buying a home, but you have nothing saved up, this is a very, very valuable option. And it's an option that's worth taking, because if the other side is waiting to save up, $20,000. And during the time of saving up that $20,000, house prices traditionally through the United States, if we go back through history, they've never gone down. I mean, you may see little small blips where they've gone down, but I mean, it's usually a month or maybe a year. But usually, if we look if we look at prices of homes 10 years ago to prices today, they're a lot higher. And we go
Right,
back 5 years ago, they're a lot higher. We go back a year ago, they're higher. So, if it took you um, even just a year to save $20,000, the difference between the house price that you can afford today and what you'll be able to afford in a year from now could be dramatically different. And
right,
so, it's definitely worth getting into a home sooner than later, and then um, being able to go, as rates do go down or whatever, which we think they will still continue to go down over the next couple of years or whatever, then refinance and continue to improve that situation, and continue to get more and more equity in your home. And the faster you can do that, if you could save up 20,000 over the next year, maybe that's an extra $20,000 that you could put down on your home. Because at any time in the process, you can pay more principal. It's not like you get into a 30-year loan and now you're obligated to pay on it for the next 30 years. You can put more money down, or you learn about how, if you make an extra payment, say your payment is $2,000 or $3,000 a year. If you were able to make an extra $3,000 payment every year, you pay that house off 7 to 10 years earlier than that. So now you're paying the house off in 20 years instead of 30 years. So
right.
those are all good principles, and they're all ways of helping you increase the wealth. But waiting a year to buy a home might be good advice, but a lot of times it's just knowing all of the information and having the information so that you make the best educated decision for you and your family.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna jump straight into this question because we are in the digital age, right? AI is like, I don't know what's the movies? I Am Legend. That's not robots. I Robot. That's robots.
I,
We're in the digital age, and people are concerned about the validity of information. So, have you heard someone say they got this information from Google or from a TikTok or from uh, Claude or ChatGPT, something that's completely like just not true, like terrible advice when it comes down to down payment assistance?
there's a lot of bad information out there for sure, and we've definitely heard those. Unfortunately, I don't talk to borrowers directly most of the time. I'm talking with realtors, I'm talking with loan officers, and different things. Um, but certainly, yes, there's a lot of bad information out there. People, people stay very away from these types of products. But what I can tell you, I mean, I've actually been in the down payment assistance arena for since uh, basically 2001, and and the market of families that use these types of programs continues to grow, which has a lot to do with education for both but home buyers, they are more educated than they've ever been today. Um, but also realtors and loan officers are more educated. And so, they're sharing these ideas with their buyers more than ever. And so they can see. Um, and our program per se is no different than a lot of housing agencies. The difference is we're owned by a Native American Indian tribe, allows us to do business nationwide. So where a state housing program can only do that state or that county, the different ones. We're in every state, every county in the United States except New York. And the only reason we're not in New York, honestly, is because they have they like any program like ours to be approved with them, and their approval process doesn't really move. So we we kind of honor them on that and respect them on that, and so we just don't do business there.
Understood.
But we can't. We're actually, we're technically approved to do business there, but we don't do business. But bottom line is what I'm trying to say is that someone might feel safer of saying, well, it's a housing agency. This is put on by my county or my state. And so I feel safer about that. But, our program is exactly the same. Um, and the difference really between us and them is our box of being able to help borrowers is a lot larger. They may have income limits that only let you make X amount of dollars, and then you can't, if you make more than that, then you can't use the program. Or if your credit score is lower than, say, a lot of them are 640, we go all the way down to a 600 credit score. So we pick up all those borrowers from 600 to 640 that state program won't allow for it. Other things that we allow for is we allow for like mom and dad to help you buy a home. And the state housing programs don't allow it. It's like you have to be able to stand on your own to buy that. We have, our program also allows, like, somebody may already own a home, and so we don't have to be a first home buyer to be our program. Plus, you may own a home, but you want to keep that home, maybe make, use it as investment property to make some money to even help you afford, the next home. And we'll let you keep that home as an investment property and get another home, maybe a bigger home that you need now that your family's got bigger. Or sometimes maybe you're even downsizing. Maybe it's, you're on the other end, your kids have all moved out and you got this big home. You want to rent that out, but you need to get into a smaller home. So, really whatever FHA guidelines allow for, we'll allow for. But those are things that other housing agencies don't allow for. So we have a lot bigger box of people we're willing to help. And those other programs are great, and we need them because the more programs, the more money that's in the market for helping people get in homes. I mean, I'm not opposed. I mean, if that, if the, I don't know all the program. I mean, I know Florida has a lot of programs. Whatever housing agency it is, and that's a better program for you because they have a better rate, or they give you more, or whatever it is, then that's the right program for you. But that's, your neighbor or your friend, maybe, their situation is completely different, their credit score is low or whatever, then our program is for them. So, or vice versa, whatever. But that they're all out there to help people. And that's our goal, is to get people into homes, not to necessarily have to use our program. But, like I said, we've helped a lot of families. We continue to, we help almost 1,000 families nationwide every single month. So it's we're doing the right thing, but still, our program is not the right program for everybody, but it obviously it is the right program for 1,000 families every single month. So you can feel safe in those things. You can feel safe that we're trying to do the right thing. We're not saying and we're not forcing you to stay in that loan longer than you need to. So there's options there. We offer forgivable, repayable options for that second mortgage, so that to help you do the right thing and build equity in your home the quickest way possible.
And for those who are watching who are not familiar with how the first and second mortgages work, that would be a great conversation to have with a lender. I can get you connected with some of our trusted lenders. They can go into detail about how loans are set up if you are going to be using something like a down payment assistance option. And we're going to close out with this. So I want you to finish this sentence. Nobody told me that blank. So for that blank, you're going to give us a thing that you wish every first-time homebuyer knew walking into this process. So I know your one word was fast. So what is one thing that you would say that you want for them to know, and an answer you would have for that?
I think the biggest thing is that it's not as scary as we build it up to be in our minds. But I also think education is key. We we do a lot of education on our side. I mean, we have requirements for education, so education is big. Going to spending as much time with somebody like Dawn who understands the process. She's obviously bringing these tools. She probably has a lot of other videos that are probably good to watch because it's going to get you the education. It's going to help you feel more comfortable um, with that. It's going to help you feel more comfortable that I can get into a home without having to save up for years to be able to do so. I just think the biggest thing you need to know is what's your options out there, what and know the whole process so that the more education you get, the less scary it is. And so that would be my biggest advice: just getting the education and knowing what your options are. And for one person, the best option is to save 20% down. But probably for a lot of people we're talking to on this show, the best option is to get into home as soon as possible and keep building equity and start modest. Don't go buy your dream home. Your first home doesn't have to be your dream home. You can buy something that's affordable and save up and build equity and then sell that and then use that equity to move into the next home and then or the next couple homes until you can get to whatever that dream home is down the road when you're financially stable and all those pieces come together. But waiting isn't necessarily the best option either. But still education, just so you understand the process. You understand that because some people get in a home, they think okay, just have that mortgage payment. But just like on a car, you buy a car, you have to have insurance. So on a home, you have insurance. When you buy a home, they if you're getting into a program like an FHA loan that we're doing, you also have mortgage insurance, which protects the lenders, but you unfortunately have to pay it. So these are additional costs that if you're figuring out your payment, you're like, well, it's only going to be $1,500 a month. But then when you get the final notice, it's $2,000, and you're like, where's that extra $500 going? It's probably going to those three things: insurance, mortgage insurance, these other things. So just that education, just having that education, so you understand these different pieces, because it's probably, if you're listening to this, it's probably your first time you're buying a home, and knowing that, and then also remembering that one of the reasons we love people using our program and is even if you had saved up say $10,000, I would be thrilled for you to keep that $10,000 in the bank and use our program and get in with no money out of your pocket, because now you have $10,000, because things are going to happen. You will, God forbid, whatever, get in a car accident. You
Right.
will have a water heater or an AC unit break. I've been in this house I'm in right now that you see me sitting in for 2 years, and my AC unit broke probably right after that home warranty I had ended, and I had to spend $3,000 or whatever it was to buy a new AC unit, and that $10,000 in the bank was a huge comfort to have during that. Sometimes our insurance costs go up, and so then we may have to make up the difference, um, or whatever, property taxes go up, or anything can change during over the next few years, and having that $10,000 or whatever it is, $3,000 in the bank is a big cushion to help protect against those things, so that we're not in a crisis just because the water heater broke.
Absolutely. And guys, that actually happens way more than you think it does. I met a couple, they bought their townhome not even 30 days after they closed. the AC unit went out and the water heater started leaking. So they felt like these are things that, thank God, we had money saved up because we didn't put down a big down payment on this property, because we got assistance.
Yeah.
So definitely there's a trade-off, right? Everything has a cost. But if you're looking at home ownership as gaining wealth, you have to know how to play the game. And this is a strategy that can be used. Down payment assistance doesn't mean that you don't have money to buy a house. It just means it's a means for you to get into a house faster than what you expect it to be, and maybe in a financial way that benefits your pockets if you strategically move the money around the best way for you as well.
Yeah. And there's always costs. When you move in a home, it's now yours and you have that pride of ownership. Sometimes it's just wanting to be able to go out and buy some plants or flowers or
Right.
something to put in the yard. And that still could cost a couple $100. And if we spend all of our money to get into a home, we have nothing. So
Right.
it's nice to have a little bit of money because there will be costs. You'll get into a home and you'll say, like, well, our furniture looked good in our old house, but we need a new couch, or we need, something. I mean, not that it's you have to have it today, but you want it to make it your home, and to have a
Right.
little money set aside that you didn't have to spend to get a new couch or whatever is it's just that helps with that pride of ownership too, and that's ultimately what you want. You don't. I hate to see anybody moving a home and be completely cash poor, and now they're sitting on the floors eating dinner because they spend everything they have, and now they've got to save up for the next, you know, or go into debt to,
Right.
to buy a table or something so that because they're completely strapped, and it might, they may never have it. And
I
so
know,
it's
right?
just not too
And
much
that is,
home.
we're not doing that here. We are making wise choices that are in alignment with a lifestyle that is fulfilling. Like, that's my biggest thing, is that I help my clients have a lifestyle, not just a house. Because at the end of the day, you want to be proud of where you are, but you want to have a life too. You you don't want to feel like your home is a prison. That's not the goal. So
And
that could be a financial
I think
prison.
when we first met, Don, I said to you, often, I mean, I used to write loans. So, I mean, I have been a loan officer and for many years. And I was always, when borrowers came to me and said, well, what do I qualify for? I always turned it back to the borrower and said, it's not what you qualify for, it's what do you feel comfortable spending? What's in your budget? Because a loan officer can tell you, I mean, the way the guidelines are for loans today, I mean, you can get into a loan and be completely cash poor. I mean, be totally strapped to that home and have no extra money. And so I used to teach people about kind of old traditional guidelines for buying homes, and I won't go into that now. But just know when you're buying a home that the loan officer may say you qualify for a $5,000 mortgage, but you only feel comfortable with a $4,000 mortgage. Then then let's go with a $4,000 mortgage, not a $5,000 mortgage, and buy that home, and then the next home maybe could be that 5,000, or your equity grew enough that you can get that $5,000 mortgage home, but still with a $4,000 mortgage.
Yeah,
So that's you got to do what's comfortable for you, not what they say you can do, because they'll tell you can do a lot more than you may feel comfortable, and then because they say you can do it, then we do it, and then we maybe regret it. So I think Don's saying we want to move in with zero regrets. So that it's, this is all, it's a win-win because we were educated and we bought what we could afford. And we're
absolutely.
comfortable doing that so that we can, in 2, 3, 5 years, move up to that next home that we're, that's in our goal site or what have you.
Well, Christopher, I thank you so much. You have informed my audience. And once again, if you're interested in relocating or moving in the Central Florida area, I would love to get connected so we can talk about what these options look like specifically to your needs. My contact information is in my bio, and the Chenoa Fund information will also be in the comment section. Thank you again, and I will see you guys later. Have a great
Thanks,
one.
Tina.